going to be Jesus Gutierrez. Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Melissa Lane Botcher for the record. The department opened a professional standards case to review a criminal charge Jesus Gutierrez Senior obtained after applying for basic correction certification. Gutierrez was charged with animal abandonment after a Facebook post he made was sent to the Baker County Sheriff's Office. In the post, Gutierrez stated that he let his horse loose in the wilderness. Gutierrez ultimately pled guilty to animal abandonment, which is a misdemeanor charge. In review of the information, the department found that Gutierrez violated criminal law, and his guilty plea to animal abandonment is considered a criminal disposition. Gutierrez's failure to provide continued care and abandonment of his horse threatened or harmed the animal. Mr. Gutierrez submitted written mitigation for the committee's consideration. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay. With the record, I'll ask for consensus that we will adopt the record as prepared by staff. Looks like there is consensus and no objection. So we will move on to open up the case for discussion, providing mitigating and or aggravating factors. Please state your name for the record and whether you are providing an aggravating or mitigating factor. Nick Hunter, aggravating factor, Mr. Gutierrez pled guilty, yet continues to state differently that he did not abandon his horse. But he, in fact, was prepared to and did plead guilty to that. Second aggravating factor is the witness statement provided. The witness statement provided of Mr. Gutierrez leading his horse out into the woods where he actually talked to this witness. And then shortly after, the witness reports that he left in his vehicle with the trailer, and this is when the horse was found, would completely negate the story that he provided to the Baker County Sheriff's Office and the story that he provided to with the Caldwell, Idaho. Yeah, it's the police department, but it's the animal investigations part of it.
And second for the record with the question, we accepted the record already. In the portion for dishonesty, it said did not find substantial evidence. Though there was some evidence in the records. Does that mean it's one of the things that's considered or not considered if they did not find?
Melissa Lane Botcher for the record. We didn't find sufficient information, but it is something that the committee can still find and make as they can affirm, modify the report to include additional findings.
Nick, for the record, this was an offline discussion that we were just having based on the first case that we discussed of the day. And we will get to that portion of basically accepting, modifying, or negating the moral fitness violations on the record. And at that point, we can make that recommendation through a motion to change that if we see fit following this discussion.
Brian, second for the record, I'm aggravating, and I guess I'm sorry if I'm saying the same thing that he just said, but the untruthfulness regarding what he had written in social media and then what he said to the police investigator or the investigator. Mitigating when he found out that there was a charge, he turned himself in to the county and to HR the same day that he found out. Mitigating human resource. So he was new and human resources didn't explain to him that he needed to, according to the record, to report to DPSST what had happened. Mitigating, he had the horse for a very long time, shows a set him free, according to the record. rather than, because he could no longer take care of him, rather than euthanize it. And mitigating, the case was dismissed after meeting the terms of deferred judgment. The courts treated this as a learning event, appearing not to want to affect his livelihood.
So Jennifer Cameron, for the record, I find an aggravating factor, in here, it does say that he failed to report, this to DPSST, but if you look at the documents, there is actually a criminal history recording, and I realize this was signed before, but he signed it. Should be aware that he reports that information. There were other, arrests and citations, that he did report back in April of 2022. So.
Nick Hunter, aggravating factor, although not pursued by law enforcement, you do have potential destruction of evidence. He was initially confronted about a Facebook post, and that Facebook post, there's no question that it existed. But that Facebook post was immediately removed by somebody. And then the basis for his continued lies were the now non-existence of that Facebook post any longer. So I think the aggravating factor was there could have been an additional charge under criminal misconduct, under destruction of evidence, which would have fallen under misconduct. Any other mitigating and or aggravating factors?
Mike Mays, for the record. In the report, it shows on October 20th, he told the officer that he was alone at the campground, but then later stated that he was with his girlfriend.
Nick Hunter, for the record. Mike, is your intention, can you clarify, is that an aggravating factor for dishonesty?
Yes, aggravated for dishonesty.
Hearing no other aggravating or mitigating circumstances, Melissa, if you could read those back. And your pen gets caught up.
For mitigating, I have noted that he turned himself in to law enforcement and the HR, Human Resources at the Department of Corrections did not explain to him that he needed to report the charge to DPSST. He had his horse for a very long time. The court dismissed his case after he completed the terms of his diversion and treated it as a learning experience. And then for aggravating, I have that Mr. Gutierrez pled guilty and continued to state that he did not abandon his horse. Witnesses saw him with a horse and his departure from the campground, which conflicts with the statements that he gave about his actions. He was untruthful related to what he posted online and said to the investigators. He filled out an application in 2022 and should have known that he needed to report the charge to DPSST. He destroyed evidence in the case by deleting the Facebook post, which is also an allegation of misconduct. He changed his story to say at one point that he was alone and another time that he was with his girlfriend, which was an aggravating factor for dishonesty, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Melissa. And taking up the record, I'll add one more on the aggravating factor side. When Baker County Sheriff's Office reached out to him, it was 21 some odd days later before they were able to actually get into contact with them. indicating that he did not return the phone calls from Baker County Sheriff's Office, knowing what they wanted to talk about since he had already talked to Idaho. So you do not need to read that one back. With no other mitigating or aggravating factors, I will open this up for a motion to either affirm the record, modify the record, or negate the record.
Ted Langley for the record. If I'm not mistaken, there was a statement in the record that said they couldn't find proof of intentional dishonesty, but there was still some elements of dishonesty in the investigation. And I feel like through the discussion that we've had as a committee already, that there's enough evidence to modify the record to show that there was dishonesty involved.
Brian Sepham for the record, I'll second.
Member Frost, do you have anything to add?
I apologize for coming back late. I just wanted it known that I work at Snake River with Officer Gutierrez. He did reach out to me about his mitigating letter. I gave him some advice, basically, and then he wrote it without any input from me. I've also repped him on a couple of things that are going forward right at the moment with Snake River also, just so we're clear where I'm at with him, so.
And kind of for the record, I would ask for, that was going to be my question. Is that something that I do, or is he basically offering to recuse himself?
You can inquire, or I'm gonna give an explanation. With an explanation.
So hello, Member Frost. This is Marie Atwood for the record. I wanted to make sure for our record keeping purposes, it sounds like you've had some specific one-on-one conversations with Mr. Gutierrez regarding the case, and perhaps were consulted almost for advice or assistance on his preparation of what to submit to the committee. Under those circumstances, I think it's appropriate that we inquire if you would be okay recusing yourself from the deliberations on this one, just so that we can avoid even a perceived conflict of interest. Not that the committee members and the agency don't trust your judgment, but I feel that would be appropriate.
No, and that's why I brought it forward. I wasn't quite sure, and after I had talked to him, I realized what he was talking about, and I was like, oh, yeah, no, that wasn't good. So, yeah, I just wanted it out there. If I need to recuse myself, I will.
Okay, we really appreciate you coming forward with that information.
Nick Hunter for the record. Yeah, I would make the recommendation to you, sir, that you recuse yourself from this record and this deliberation.
Noted.
Okay. Following that, we are back to a motion to either affirm, modify, or negate the record. I believe we received a motion from Captain Langley to modify the record to include the moral fitness violation of dishonesty and otherwise accept the record as prepared. And you said, we have a second. I'm just getting myself caught up.
All right, we are voting on a motion to modify the moral fitness violations as presented to include dishonesty. Chair Hunter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron?
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich?
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden?
Aye.
Committee Member Frasco?
Aye.
Committee Member Hartford?
Aye.
Committee Member Langley?
Aye.
Committee Member Mace?
Aye.
And Committee Member Stefan?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. I will now entertain a motion about whether the committee wants to take action or not on this case. Please remember to state your name for the record and your reasoning for either. Nick Kenner, for the record, I make a motion that the committee take action on this case based on the identified aggravating factors, especially to include the one including the finding of dishonesty by the committee discussion.
Lori Frasco, I would second.
All right, we are voting on a motion to take action. Chair Hunter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron?
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich?
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden?
Aye.
Committee Member Frasco?
Aye.
Committee Member Hepburn?
Aye.
Committee Member Langley?
Aye.
Committee Member Mays?
Aye.
And Committee Member Seven.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. With the motion to take action, we'll now move on to, I'll entertain a motion regarding the potential period of ineligibility. Since this case now does include dishonesty, potential period of ineligibility would be 3 years to a lifetime.
Josh Aldrich for the record. Question for staff. Could we clarify when that would potentially begin? Please. Thank you.
Melissa Langbacher for the record, because the charge occurred while Mr. Gutierrez was employed in public safety and he is currently employed in public safety, any ineligibility date would be based on the date of the board's review and approval. So a future date, probably in January of 2026. Sorry, my brain shorted out for a minute there.
Thank you.
I'm voting for the record. So just for clarification, he's currently working, but he would become ineligible as of January.
Yes, so it would be based on the date of the board's approval. So DPSST, after the committee makes a recommendation, would send him a notice that we're seeking to take action. He would still have the ability to contest that, which may change that date of a final order, but if no hearing is requested and the board approves, it would become a final order on that date, which would be the start of the ineligibility.
Thank you for that clarification.
Nick Hunter, for the record, I would make a motion that we recommend an ineligibility period of a lifetime of ineligibility based on the dishonesty that is apparent in this case from Mr. Gutierrez regarding the stories that he told once confronted about this, when it started with what potentially in his mind was a more humane act of just letting the horse go as opposed to euthanizing it. But then his continued dishonesty when confronted with that is of great concern and would lead to my motion for an ineligibility period of a lifetime.
Josh Aldrich for the record. I'd second that motion and also add reference to the steps that were taken in regard to the post to actually kind of hide some of the factors that could have potentially led to his ultimate prosecution.
Right, we are voting on a motion for a lifetime ineligibility period. Chair Hunter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron?
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich?
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden,
Aye.
Committee Member Fresco,
Aye.
Committee Member Hartford.
Aye.
Committee Member Langley,
Aye.
Committee Member Mays,
Aye.
and Committee Member Steffen.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next case we'll move on to is Michelle Hubbard. Michelle Hubbard is presented by Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Lancaster, for the record, the department opened a professional standards case to review Michelle Hubbard's separation from the Department of Corrections. Her separation was part of a settlement agreement, which followed an investigation that found that she had failed to maintain appropriate boundaries within adult custody after she was observed supplying access to contraband items to an adult in custody. In a review of the information provided, the department found misuse of authority, that Hubbard intentionally used her position to obtain a benefit, and misconduct, that she failed to maintain appropriate boundaries within adult in custody, provided that adult in custody was access to contraband items, some of which could potentially be used to aid in an escape from custody. Hubbard's failure to follow security protocols when she provided access to the contraband items threatened the efficient operations of the Department of Corrections. When Hubbard failed to follow security protocols and maintain appropriate boundaries with the adult in custody, it also harmed the adults in custody when they were placed in disciplinary segregation. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Melissa. First, I'll ask for consensus of the record and to adopt this record for further discussion. With consensus, we will move on to a discussion of aggravating and mitigating factors. Please remember to state your name and identify whether you are presenting an aggravating or a mitigating factor for the record.
9-7 for the record, aggravating factor. It's stated on the report she had previously been a subject of 6 investigations for other boundary related issues. Aggravating factor that her labor representative, who had defended her multiple times, was the one who brought this interaction to management's attention.
Ed Langley for the record, kind of on the follow up the 6 previous investigations. I guess I just want to, I wanted to point out that it just leads to the obviousness that this one wasn't an isolated incident. And I also found it aggravating that in providing contraband to an inmate that could potentially lead to an escape, not only does it put members of the facility at risk, but also local law enforcement if they had to respond to an escape, and the general public. So there's a lot more people at risk than just the people that work at the facility.
Nick Hunter, aggravating factor. This case involved what is going to be significant harm to the AIC. The AIC had been what would appear to be in the same facility for years. Granted, it takes 2 to tango, but the actions of Ms. Hubbard led to this AIC being moved. And when this AIC was moved in facilities, he did suffer harm, whether that's a direct correlation or anything. I can't speak to that, but the AIC was harmed by being moved. Second aggravating factor is, I'm not exactly sure how to word this one, but there wasn't apparently any apparent dishonesty, but there was no real accountability for actions. She was fairly blasé in all the interviews, like, I did that. A little bit of deflecting where it wasn't that she, her answer was, I haven't directly been told that I can't do that, or putting it off on the kitchen or commissary manager there. where I've been told I can do this, but not really taking any account for her own actions.
Josh Aldridge for the record. I believe an aggravating factor, although I will say I would defer to our partners here from the Department of Corrections because I'm not familiar with this form number. I saw a reference in the report that not only were contraband items potentially shared with this AIC, but there was also information on a Measure 17 form that it says contain information about other AICs. And this information was shared with an AIC who should not have had access, which I believe also aggravates things because it potentially just shared personal information and put others at risk once again.
Brian Steffen for the record, continuing with that, the Measure 17 form is what, for lack of better words, is the pay for the AICs that are doing work. So one AIC in this case had access to adjust the pay for the other AICs.
Nick Hunter, aggravating factor. She was in fact having this AIC do work for her.
Brian Steffen, aggravating factor, a little bit of clarification of the prior boundary investigations. 2 of the prior investigations had been with the same AIC. She had not made any adjustments.
Mike Mays for the record. Aggravating factors for misconduct. Officer Hubbard was shown to have brought a personal cell phone inside the facility and gave the AIC access to that cell phone to see photos of her.
Nick Hunter, aggravating factor on the same cell phone issue. There's the question around her work phone and her work phone. She was very ambiguous about whether it was left in her bag or not, but left in the side compartment of her bag, which that AIC moved, which would have then given that AIC direct access to that work cell phone. So I believe the aggravating factor is in just property control and property management of what would otherwise be contraband.
Brian Steffen for the record with the question, there are a lot of, the AIC's name is redacted. I did see it at one point in here. Does it say what his sentence was? Is that something that can be part of the aggravating? I don't know if it's in the record that we accepted or not, so I don't know if I can talk about it.
I don't, Nick Hunter, for the record, I don't remember ever, the only thing I remember specifically about the AIC's sentence, so to speak, was just how long he had been there. But I don't remember any clarifications about what he was in fact sentenced for.
Or how long.
Or exactly how long he would ultimately be there.
Hey, John Frost for the record, to clarify, according to the report, that is a personal cell phone, not a work cell phone. Also in this report, she talks about her sharing her personal pictures of her son's diamond art project that she was working on.
Hartford, for the record, just a clarification. There was no finding of a PREA violation in the DOC's investigation report. Is that correct? I didn't see a violation of PREA. And it's just, it's just interesting to me, the intensity of their relationship where he would punch somebody in the face if they touched her bags. He's helping her with her medication to control some symptoms she may have. Like, they were very close, and I was just curious about PREA violations that I did not see in the record.
For the record, I did not see anything related to PREA as well. Any other aggravating or mitigating factors?
Lori Frasca, for the record, I would say an aggravating factor is that Ms. Hubbard had been employed for 27 years with the department and has had multiple hours of training that discusses boundaries, code of conduct, code of ethics. And she still allowed her boundaries with AICs to become blurred, per se, and put the entire facility in the department at risk.
Would you like to read back those factors you do have?
Yes. Melissa Lane Bosher, for the record, I don't see any mitigating factors that were identified, but for aggravating, I have that Hubbard was previously the subject of 6 investigations for boundary issues. The union representative who previously represented her in some of those investigations reported her conduct. It wasn't an isolated incident. She put members of the facility, local law enforcement, and the general public at risk due to after she gave access to an AIC access to methods of escape. Actions by Hubbard led to an adult in custody being harmed after they were moved to another facility because the move was related specifically to Hubbard's actions. Although there was no apparent dishonesty, Hubbard was very blasé and deflected her responsibilities and actions in the case. Contraband items were provided, and information was provided about adults in custody to an AIC. One adult in custody had access to adjust the pay for multiple AICs. She had an adult in custody do work for her. 2 of the prior investigations were related to her conduct with the same adult in custody, and she failed to adjust her conduct. She brought in her personal cell phone into the institution and gave access to it to an adult in custody. She gave an ambiguous answer about a phone that was in her possession and backpack when an adult in custody moved her bag, and then failed to restrict access to those items. And then it was clarified that it was her personal cell phone that was in the bag that the adult in custody moved. And then lastly, she had, it was aggravating that she had 27 years of experience with multiple hours of training and still allowed boundaries to be blurred and put others at risk by her actions. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Melissa. Is there a consensus of all of the aggravating? There were no mitigating factors just presented. With the consensus, I'll entertain a motion to either affirm accepting it as it is, or modify or negate based on the moral fitness violations and the report as completed by staff.
Brian Seppi, for the record, I move that we recommend to take action based on moral fitness and all of the aggravating factors that I'm not gonna list.
Taking action, Nick, for the record, taking action is the next question. This is for,
Affirming, yes, I move that we affirm based on aggravating factors.
Carbonics.
My turn to get ahead.
okay, so I have a motion to affirm, and I think there was a.
I did.
Yep, there was my second. Okay.
We are voting on a motion to affirm the moral fitness violations as presented. Chair Hunter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron,
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich.
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden.
Aye.
Committee Member Frasco.
Aye.
Committee Member Frost.
Aye.
Committee Member Hartford. Committee Member Langley.
Aye.
Committee Member Mays.
Aye.
Committee Member Steffen.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Now, I will entertain a motion to either take action or take no action from the committee. Please remember to state your name for the record and your reasoning for taking action or making this a recommendation of no action.
Brian Steffen, for the record, I move that we recommend to take action based on all the aggravating factors.
I'll second Jennifer Cameron. I'll second.
Voting on a motion to take action. Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron.
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich.
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden.
Aye.
Committee Member Frasco.
Aye.
Committee Member Frost.
Aye.
Committee Member Hartford.
Aye.
Committee Member Langley.
Aye.
Committee Member Mays.
Aye.
And Committee Member Steffen.
Aye.
Motion passed.
For the motion to take action, the next thing we will move on to is I'll entertain a motion regarding the potential ineligibility period for Ms. Hubbard. Ineligibility, there is no dishonesty that was found. So misuse of authority and misconduct are ineligibility period of 3 to 10 years. Please remember to state your name for the record and your name for your ineligibility period recommendation.
Brian Steffen, for the record, I move that we recommend 10 years based on the multitude of aggravating factors and the facts of the case.
Jennifer Cameron, I'll second for those reasons. I wish in this case we could recommend lifetime. But 10 years is what I also.
Motion in a second.
We are voting on a motion for a 10-year ineligibility period. Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron.
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich.
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden.
Aye.
Committee Member Frasco.
Aye.
Committee Member Frost.
Aye.
Committee Member Hartford.
Aye.
Committee Member Langley.
Aye.
Committee Member Mays.
Aye.
Committee Member Steffen.
Aye.
Motion passed.
All right, we'll move on to our final case, August Lothian. August Lothian will be presented by Melissa.
Thank you. Melissa Lancaster for the record. The department opened a professional standards case to review August Lothian's resignation from the Washington County Sheriff's Office during an investigation into allegations that he was untruthful during his background investigation. Washington County Sheriff's Office sustained preliminary findings that Lothian was untruthful after he failed to disclose in his background process that he was the subject of a military protection order and provided inconsistent answers to questions that he gave in other background questioning. In a review of the information provided, the department found that Lothian was intentionally dishonest, omitted information, or misrepresented information during the background process with two different agencies. Mr. Jess.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, as for a consensus to adopt this record for further discussion. The consensus to adopt, I'll open up the case for discussion. Discussion of mitigating or aggravating factors. Please remember to state your name for the record and identifying either aggravating or mitigating.
Brian Steffen, for the record, I'll give him mitigating that he claimed he had given his 2 weeks notice and they stopped assigning him. So he thing that he didn't realize or think about it as being fired, that he didn't report. Or we'll give aggravating that even if that's arguable for multiple instances of dishonesty and deceptive behavior indicating overall aptitude to untruthfulness.
Well, slang Basha for the record, could you just, I think I got confused and halfway through that, was it mitigating that he, that it was mitigating that he claimed, that he gave his 2-week notice and didn't think it was something that he needed to report, and then what was the second part?
Right, so for the record, for the mitigating, he gave us 2 weeks and they stopped assigning him. They said he was fired and he didn't report that as being fired.
Okay.
So I could understand potentially the aggravating being that even if that one's arguable in my mind, there are multiple instances of dishonesty and deceptive behavior, indicating overall aptitude towards truthfulness.
The kind of aggravating factor. He, when confronted with this information by Washington County, he chose to resign and not participate in the internal investigation process. Knowing the accusations against him, his choice to not participate, in my mind, demonstrates an admission of guilt. Or at least a no contest plea, I guess, if we want to use a correct court term.
Mark, for the record, aggravating factors. He not only lied about that, but also about drug use, not being truthful on the exact amount of what it exactly was and how many years he actually engaged. And also aggravating is not only was he a part of a protection order, but he was part of a protection order for sexual misconduct.
Josh Aldridge for the record, adding to that, and also I think making it as more of an aggravating factor is that it seems the places where he was deceptive are those places where it's pretty clear that it could affect your possibility for employment in law enforcement. They surrounded some pretty significant accusations of things that had happened in his past.
And Stefan, for the record, it appears to me as being confusing on purpose to be deceptive and is continuing to attempt to be hired at multiple law enforcement agencies.
Any other aggravating or mitigating factors to be entered into the record? Member Frost, light came on real quick. Member Frost, did you have something to add?
No, I didn't. Sorry. I don't know what happened there.
So if you could read back what we have.
For mitigating, his employment, separation, where he, claimed that he gave 2 weeks notice and then stopped getting assigned, but in reality was actually fired, was an understandable reason to think that maybe, he didn't need to report that, separation as a termination. He also gave multiple instances of deceptive behaviors, and had an aptitude for, deceptive actions. He chose to resign and not participate in the investigation, which demonstrates an admission of, or no contest recognition of his guilt. He lied about, drug use and was not truthful, on the length or the number of times that he used drugs. He failed to report a military protection order for sexual misconduct. The places in the background investigation where he was dishonest were areas that could impact his employment. He attempted to be confusing and applied at multiple agencies. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Melissa. Consensus regarding the aggravating and mitigating factors presented.
Martin, for the record, I just like to actually fix that. It was actually sexual assault, not misconduct. Thank you. And that was my bad. That was my word used. But written it says assault.
With the aggravating and mitigating factors, I'll open the discussion now regarding the moral fitness violation of dishonesty. I'll entertain a motion to affirm, modify, or negate the record.
For the record, I move to affirm the findings or recommendation of dishonesty based on the multiple counts in the record.
Martin, for the record, I'll second.
All right, voting on a motion to affirm the moral fitness violations as presented, Chair Hunter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron,
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich.
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden.
Aye.
Committee Member Frasco.
Aye.
Committee Member Frost.
Aye.
Committee Member Hartman.
Aye.
Committee Member Langley.
Aye.
Committee Member Mays.
Aye.
And Committee Member Steffen.
Aye.
Motion passed.
With the acceptance of the report, I'll entertain a motion for the committee to either take action or not take action in this case. Please remember to state your name for the record and your reasoning for your recommendation.
And second, for the record, I move that we recommend take action based on the cases presented and aggravating factors.
Nick Hunter, I'll second that.
Voting on a motion to take action, Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron.
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich.
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden.
Aye.
Committee Member Fosco.
Aye.
Committee Member Frost.
Aye.
Committee Member Hartman.
Aye.
Committee Member Langley.
Aye.
Committee Member Mays.
Aye.
And Committee Member Steffen.
Aye.
Motion passed.
And with a recommendation to take action, we'll move on to a potential ineligibility period. This does involve dishonesty, so the potential ineligibility period would be from 3 years to a lifetime of ineligibility. Kind of for the record, I'm going to ask a question real quick. Can there be clarification? So why is this coming to us? Because he's not applying for another job in public safety, as I understand it. He's applying for something else.
He currently has a certification in basic corrections, so we're reviewing his separation from employment, in which he was found to be dishonest when applying to another agency. So it's a little bit confusing on how it ended up with us.
Sort of post hoc, but now that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion concerning a potential ineligibility period.
Ted Langley, for the record, I'd recommend a lifetime ineligibility period. Mostly based on the fact that his dishonesty with the two agencies occurred at like one of the very first steps that you take in getting hired. And I just don't really see any necessity to offer him an entire career to continue being dishonest.
Jennifer Cameron, I'll second that. I want to note too that in his letter of explanation, he says, I have always tried to be honest. Honesty isn't something you try to do. So you either are or you aren't. I second Captain Langley's motion.
Okay, we are voting on a motion for a lifetime ineligibility period. Chair Hunter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron,
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich,
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden,
Aye.
Committee Member Frasco,
Aye.
Committee Member Frost,
Aye.
Committee Member Hartline.
Aye.
Committee Member Langley,
Aye.
Committee Member Mays,
Aye.
and Committee Member Simmons. Motion passed.
Thank you. For that, and we are moving on to agency updates. Oh, I'm sorry, we moved on to an administrative revision request, which specifically involves Chris, and I shouldn't have put a check mark.
No,
I'll go back up to the yours, sir.
it is kind of an agency update, though, if you want. Chris Amplis for the record. Happy to see everybody this morning and online. So I have an administrative revision request for you regarding the parole probation training program. And there's kind of two pieces to this request. One is the actual ask, but the larger one is just to kind of forecast potential larger changes to that program on the horizon. But we're going to start with an administrative revision request. And so just to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page, because I know some people are new to role. Generally, most recently, you saw the basic parole probation curriculum request come through. That was a full and formal revision process involving a public work group, a lot of work, a lot of time. When we look at what the board oversees for curriculum, we define that kind of as goals, outcomes, and hours. So goals are kind of the general instructional focuses of the course. Outcomes are the instructional pieces students are expected to retain post-course, right? Like the pieces they need to know. And hours of instruction allotted to each session or each training topic. When we're touching all three of those for revision, that's generally the trigger point for a kind of a full work group revision, right? The whole program's changing. The reason this is coming to you as an administrative request is because we're really talking about reorganizing hours, those topics within two programs, and considering consolidation. Both those programs are pretty recently revised. The memo kind of speaks to that. Probation you just saw. The ARM program is a little stale, but not too much, right? It was approved in 2021. So our feeling at this point is generally the goals and outcomes for both those programs are set. It's really talking about what we do with the hours if we were to consolidate those programs to kind of spread that learning over what would likely be a 7-week run for parole probation. Memo speaks to the history on it. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but the general why behind the revision. Running a condensed skills program has a lot of just necessary evils that come with it, right? Slamming, that much instruction related to deadly force into a 1-week historical model or even a 2-week current model. That's a lot of learning for students to pick up in a short period of time, especially when you consider they have to do it in kind of isolation from the rest of the skills they get in basic. That 5-week plus 2-week model has consequences. While it's a good program, we're seeing poorer returns out of it than we have previously. And both in terms of student success within the program and our own staff's kind of satisfaction with what they're getting out of students during the course of instruction. The other piece that's tripping this is the need for that program is starting to become a little bit of a redundancy. If we roll back the clock 10 years when we had at that point 2 agencies operating in an unarmed capacity within parole probation, one of them representing a pretty good body in terms of the numbers. It made sense to kind of accept that trade-off of a bifurcated training model. The larger of those 2 unarmed agencies is in the process of transitioning to an armed model. The other agency doesn't have much heartburn over the notion of their staff being trained in firearms to potentially convert to an armed model down the road. Those things kind of add up to us as like, we're at a really good point to consider, should this program be looked at for consolidation? So the administrative proposal you have is really just giving us the green light to proceed on that project, but doing it with something less than the traditional full public work group. It would likely consist largely of DPSST staff sitting down, retemplating those programs, and then we would do some engagement with certain constituents, agencies that offer loan instructors here quite a bit to give us input on that, and then we'd circle back through OACCD for kind of their input on the suitability of that program. This would all likely be targeting the next board cycle for some kind of initial feedback to CPC. And depending on how successful the project is, if we go forward with it, that could be an approval point, or that could be an advisement to CPC of like, yep, we have a possible product in the works, and we're thinking we pilot it much further down the line, or 2 or 3 months down the line, and CPC would be either approving the actual change or some kind of pilot. I think that sums it up pretty well. The only piece that's a little loose there is process, and a lot of that's just going to come down to staff's capacity to get this done, and kind of layering the board timelines against our timelines for when we'll offer programs, because that'll probably be the real trick point. What questions do you have?
So I think it's a little interesting that we're almost doing this on the community corrections side, yet we're having a different conversation on the basic corrections side, and that conversation is yet to come to fruition. And I haven't anticipated and know where that goes, that we're not going to end up making significant changes to basic corrections. I will tell you, I support this in the nature of there's no way you're going to achieve effective interleaving in 2 weeks. And so that 2-week course is, for lack of a better term, check the box, because there's very little transference of skill outside, which I think you all have recognized, and we're seeing the results of that. So the long way around, I'm supportive on the training side of it, that if we're going to arrive at firearms anyway, then we would be better off combining it, taking that time and interleaving that firearms throughout that 7 weeks, achieving a better sort of learning, retention, transference model for that skill, knowing how important that skill is if that person needs to call upon that skill in the field.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think, I haven't spoke a lot to the operational impacts, because in many ways, what you order, we will do. But yeah, running as a standalone program, it certainly creates a lot of obstructions to effective learning, like interleaving. It also is just a really challenging schedule for us to operate. Condensing that many firearm sessions in a 2-week block really creates a lot of venue conflicts for us to operate. So it's a really nice example of potentially kind of a plus, right? We could see an enhancement of student learning and also arrive at an academy template that's a lot easier for us to operate with confidence.
Carter, for the record, I would second that and say that one of the issues over the last, let's say, 10 years is the ability or the consistency that the academies had to even have those 2 classes back to back for the folks that do attend the armed portion. Having them separated by several weeks becomes problematic operationally, probably for the academy or here, as well as the agencies that are sending their folks there. So I'm supportive of the combination for the training components, the operational pieces. And I just appreciate that you and your staff are considering that moving forward.
I think
Jennifer,
go ahead, Jennifer.
Jennifer, honestly, I'm a parole officer too, and I'm gonna date myself, but I was around when we first started in firearms. I actually went to other training, became a deputy reserve, just so I could get additional training because I was important. So I'm happy to hear that anything to advance firearms training for PNP is a wonderful thing, so.
Thank you. I think the only real action item I have is just that confirmation from CPC or the opposite, that will proceed with an administrative revision that will generally preserve outcomes and goals within the program, but would have the latitude to redistribute hours as appropriate, and we report back to you for final approval on that.
And just for the record, Chris, you were engaging, sorry, Nick, for the record, you were engaging with OACCD and working at least through that with OACCD, which would give you sort of impacts across the state.
Yeah, we would likely agenda to OACCD prior to coming back to CPC for kind of their formal input on it. But we've engaged with local agencies quite a bit, particularly the ones that are likely to be the most heavily impacted by a change.
No, and I think Commander Harper brings up a great point. And if you're on the eastern side of the state and you've got to send your folks for 5 weeks, and then you got to figure out how to send them for another 2 weeks, operationally, that's a big challenge. And so just knowing that they're gone for 7 weeks, not to mention the increase we're going to get in training, I think there's huge positivity to that.
Do we need to make a motion? So Jennifer Cameron, I'll make a motion to do I do, is it to accept? What am I? I know, I'm like, no, it's like right
Agree with?
Yeah, I didn't know the. Yes, there we go, to approve the revision
That's presented.
as presented.
Fire button for the record in a second.
Alrighty, we are voting on a motion to approve the administrative revision request to the parole and probation training programs. Chair Hunter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Cameron?
Aye.
Committee Member Aldrich?
Aye.
Committee Member Bowden?
Aye.
Committee Member Plasko?
Aye.
Committee Member Frost?
Aye.
Committee Member Hartford?
Aye.
Committee Member Langley?
Aye.
Committee Member Mays?
Aye.
And Committee Member Seven.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Wow, it's done both of those.
Agency updates, Deputy Director.
Yes, on behalf of the director, since he is on a much deserved vacation. I want to take a moment. Ted, this is one time you're not in person. I would say 99% of the time you are in person. And the day that we want to say our thank yous for 4 years of dedicated service and commitment, and to present to you, as you can see virtually here, our appreciation. Just want to take a moment to say you've been invaluable to CPC. The 2 years that I've been around, you were thoroughly engaged, thoughtful in your comments and contributions, and just want to say thank you very much for your dedication to DPSSD and to your profession. Really appreciate it. And Juan will send it out.
I can take
Well,
it to him.
it's been an honor to do this. I've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed getting to actually know a few people a lot better. So thank you very much.
And probably only,
I'll bring it to you.
There you go.
I'll have the sheriff give it to you.
I like it. The others is, if most of you and those who are also on state budget is just, we did submit our reduction packages as asked for 2.5 and 5%. And they were approved to submit. That's as far as I'll say, we just approved to submit. We met the requirements. But should they take portions or all of it, it would come down to class sizes, classes, including the leadership track that we offer up. We get into the 5%, then we're talking personnel. So we're following this very closely. Our saving grace, hopefully, is that we're not primarily general fund. We are CFA, and we'll see the mid-November forecast to see how the CFA's criminal fines account is doing. It was trending a little bit upwards, so as long as it continues up or sideways, that will help us. But we're just standing by. I think next week is when Pub Sub goes. There's larger agencies that have been asked to present their reductions and their concepts. We have not, so they have our information. We're just standing by, but certainly if it looks like we're gonna be impacted, and we think that it will impact the constituents, we'll be sharing that with you in another meeting.
Thank you. Marie Atwood for the record. I would first like to say on behalf of Professional Standards, thank you to everyone for your participation today. I am always impressed by the level of engagement and really fruitful, important discussion that I hear out of this group. The work you do is so, so critical to making sure that this field, our industry, maintains in the way that we want it to. I would also like to thank my staff, our team, Juan, for all of your tireless work in getting this meeting ready, as you always do. With that said, my only updates are, a couple of things that might involve a little more work for everybody. So the first case that we tried to hear today, the one where Mr. Bond came and provided his mitigation. So just to address what we've been having some sidebar discussions about how to move forward with that. The reason why it was tossed onto the agenda later than normal is because there's a little bit of an emergent status with his joining the academy in January. However, generally speaking, we try not to have somebody already in the academy when their case is heard by a policy committee or the board. So to that end, because we got partway through his process today, so that we can avoid a possible situation where he might be pulled from academy based on the committee's decision, or just where his future is kind of up in the air, especially because if he ends up going before the board, it could be up to 6 months from now before his case is actually resolved. Our plan, if we can achieve a quorum, is to try to toss together an emergency meeting that's just going to be for that case deliberations only. Virtual attendance is obviously going to be fine, but we're going to try to get that scheduled sometime between now and his date to begin academy in January. And hopefully that way his case could also go to the board in January if needed. So just a heads up on that. You'll probably be receiving emails from Juan shortly about trying to schedule something that's workable for a quorum of people. The other only real agency update I have on the professional standards side of thing is that at the end of October, our moral fitness work group convened for what, about 4-hour meeting? 3 hours? 3. Yeah. And that committee has obviously been doing a ton of work over a really lengthy span of time to get our administrative rules for moral fitness guidelines up to speed, clarified, more robust, adding some things that haven't been there, moving some things around just so that they're easier to use and for our both the public and our committee and board members to grapple with. So if all goes according to plan between now and the end of the year, there should be a level of DOJ review on our proposed rule changes. And then if that is achieved in a timely fashion, it could be back on your radar as soon as the February meeting. So keep an eye out for agenda items and materials pertinent to moral fitness work group review. Otherwise, I think that's all I have for today.
Let me add one more.
Yes.
On that emergency meeting, Captain Calpine for the record, just again, put it in time frame. The board meets in January, starts in January. We'll want to get the material, your vote onto the board's record for consideration. And when do they usually do? December
18th.
So count on the meeting being before December 18th, just so we can make it meaningful and get it onto the board's calendar as well for their material. And that would give both the agency, the employee, the board time to do all the considerations without impacting anything.
And I have a question. When you send the email, will you be including the staff report and all the information in that? Since the link to the information from today, I think it's usually gone, so.
Yes.
That way we'll double check that, resend it just so we make sure everybody has it. Thank you, Juan.
Well done, Chair. Thank you.
All right, so last but not least, thanks for bearing with me today as we tried to get through this whole thing. I feel for Jennifer right now and her having to do this. It's very interesting when you're trying to participate in the conversation, but you're also trying to facilitate the conversation. So I appreciate everybody doing that. I want to echo a couple of things that Marie said. This is extremely important. These are these folks' lives. These are these folks' livelihoods. So these are important decisions that we're being asked to make, or recommendations that we're being asked to make. So I'm a big one on participation. I appreciate it. I think everybody participated today in some way, shape, or form. And that's really all I would ask of as being your chair now, is just preparing for the meeting, coming to the meeting prepared, and then don't be afraid to say something. I think that's what makes for good, colorful, fruitful discussion, is to hear those differences of opinions and to hear what people truly think. So that's what this environment should be for. And I appreciate everybody kind of being committed to doing that together. So with that, I don't see exactly when the next meeting is, but it's going to end up being virtual. So some of us or most of us will see each other very soon. And with that, I will stop and enjoy your day. And we are adjourned.
Thank you.